Now I'm very pleased to introduce two of our student leaders, and they want to make some remarks. The first one is Skylar Fairchild. He is the student body president.
Good afternoon, seniors. So I don't have any props, so I'm just going to tell you a story. So, sorry. Well, since this is a Catholic school, I can probably assume it is safe to say that the next phrase that I say is something I've never prefaced the story before here. I'd like to tell you a story my rabbi told me. Information, please. When I was quite young, my father had one of the first telephones in our neighborhood. I remember well the polished old case fastened to the wall. The shiny receiver hung on the side of the box. I was too little to reach the telephone, but used to listen to it with fascination when my mother used to talk to it. Then I discovered that somewhere inside the wonderful device lived an amazing person. Her name was Information, Please. And there was nothing that she did not know. Information, Please could supply anybody's number and the correct time. My first personal experience with this genie in a bottle came one day when my mother was visiting a neighbor. Amusing myself at the tool bench in the basement, I whacked my finger with a hammer. The pain was terrible, but there didn't seem any reason to cry because there was no one home to give sympathy. I walked around the house, sucking my throbbing finger, finally arriving to the stairway. The telephone! Quickly I ran to the footstool in the parlor and dragged it into the landing. Climbing up, I unhooked the receiver in the parlor and held it to my ear. Information, please, I said into the mouthpiece just above my head. A click or two and a small, clear voice spoke into my ear. Information. I hurt my finger! I wailed into the phone. The tears came readily now that I had an audience. Isn't your mother home? Came the question. Nobody's home but me, I blubbered. Are you bleeding? The voice asked. No. I hit my finger with a hammer and it hurts. Can you open your icebox? She said. I said I could. Then chip off a little piece of ice and hold it to your finger, said the voice. After that, I called Information, Please for everything. I asked her for help with my geography, and she told me where Philadelphia was. She helped me with my math. She told me my pet chipmunk I caught in the park just the day before would eat fruit and nuts. Then, there was that time Petey, our pet canary, died. I called Information, Please, and told her the sad story. She listened, then said the usual things grown-ups say to soothe a child, but I was not consoled. I asked her, why is it that birds should sing so beautifully and bring joy to all families, only to end up as a heap of feathers on the bottom of a cage? She must have sensed my deep concern, for she said quietly, Paul, always remember that there are other worlds to sing in. Somehow I felt better. Information, said the now familiar voice. How do you spell fix? I asked. All this took place in a small town in the Pacific Northwest. When I was 9 years old, we moved across country to Boston. I missed my friend very much. Information, Please belonged in that old wooden box back home, and I somehow never thought of trying the tall, shiny new phone that sat on the table in the hall. As I grew into my teens, the memories of the childhood conversations never really left me. Often in moments of doubt and perplexity, I would recall the serene sense of security I had then. I appreciated how patient, understanding, and kind she was to have spent so much time on a little boy. A few years later, on my way west for college, my plane put down in Seattle, and I had about a half an hour or so between flights. I spent 15 minutes or so on the phone with my sister, who lived there now. Then, without thinking, I dialed my hometown operator and said, Information, please. Miraculously, I heard a small, clear voice I knew so well. Information. I hadn't planned this, but I heard myself saying, could you tell me how to spell fix? There was a long pause, and then came the soft-spoken answer, I guess your finger must have healed by now. I laughed. So it really is you. I said, I wonder if you have any idea how much you meant to me during that time. I wonder, she said, if you know how much your calls meant to me. I never had any children, and I used to look forward to your calls. I told her how often I had thought of her over the years, and I asked her if I could call again when I came back to visit my sister. Please do, she said. Just ask for Sally. 3 months later, I was back in Seattle. A different voice answered. Information. I asked for Sally. Are you a friend? Yes, a very old friend, I answered. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, she said. Sally had been working here part-time the last few years because she was sick. She died 5 weeks ago. Before I could hang up, she said, wait a minute. Is your name Paul? Yes. Well, Sally left a message for you. She wrote it down just in case you called. Let me read it to you. The note said, "Tell him I still say there are other worlds to sing in." He'll know what I mean. I thanked her and hung up. I knew what Sally meant. The impressions you leave on someone can be your greatest accomplishment in life. I still remember coming to our first care session, not really knowing anyone, quickly trying to make a few friends before it was time to leave. Then coming back a few weeks later to NSO weekend, where everyone was trying to make a name for themselves. From the guys with their shirts off, trying to show off to all the ladies, but failing miserably, to trying to represent your color best, although no team ever compared to Team Yellow. 4 years were ahead of us, whether we liked it or not. There were nights of celebration, nights of partying, nights of studying far in advance because we were all good students who never crammed for a college exam, and some nights of sadness that brought us all closer together along the way. Throughout these past 4 years, we have not always seen eye to eye, whether it be for a bad breakup, a dispute over a broomball game, or even a 6 a.m. wake-up call from the ROTC students on their morning run. Sorry, not sorry. Even with all the struggles that have happened over these years, we have still come together to be one of the best classes to ever go through Niagara, and will always be remembered here for our accomplishments. Well, class of 13, 4 years ago, we entered as the low men on the totem pole, and with a blink of an eye and 4 short years later, after finally gaining the seniority, it is time to give it up. Welcome to the dark and scary real world we must all enter now. While all of us may be taking different paths, from grad school to the workforce to serving our country, our experiences here are what have led us to making these decisions, and I am not afraid of seeing what is next in all our lives. I want to ask you all a question. Have you all thought of the impressions that you have left on this campus? Have you thought of whose lives you have changed? Look around. If it not be someone sitting directly next to you or a few rows over, or even someone out in the community surrounding Niagara with all the service work that we have completed together, I can guarantee it is someone who may have already headed home for the summer, who will come back in the fall and see the impact that you have had on their lives. Someone dear to me once said, "It is not about the impact you make while you're there, but about the change that you see when you're gone." Every one of you sitting here in front of me, faculty and student, has impacted my life. You have all taught me the true meaning of friendship and family. The impressions that you have all left on me will help me on my path to where I am heading now, and I know it will do the same for you. In closing, I would like to press the message that the story I read earlier has left me with. Do not be afraid to lend someone a hand, or pass a smile or a hug to someone in need to make their day a little brighter. I wish you all the best of luck while heading on the long and winding road of life that you are heading off to. Just never forget where you came from, because it will drive you forward. Never underestimate the power of impressions that you make on others, and at the end of the day, just ask yourselves, whose lives did you touch today? I know that you have all touched mine, and the lessons that we have learned together will better our successes down the road. Class of 2013, I say thank you for everything and wish you the best of luck. Now enter the new world, and don't forget to sing.